I strongly believe that my main products and ancillary tasks complement each other and work together to create a persuasive, memorable brand image that is appealing to my target audience. As I have previously mentioned, I intentionally kept some aspects of media language similar across the products in order to create and maintain the brand image. For example, I used the same masthead on each product. I used a colour palette that reflected the natural environment and Cornish colours. I used breathtaking Cornish landscape photography for each product. I used Lexis that reflected the Cornish region and Lexis that was suitably informal for my target audience. I used typography that drew from Celtic styles but also modern enough to convince my audience that this was a product for a youth market, and I used creative, stylish layouts that flow across all of my products. I have also linked my products by putting the website address on the magazine and billboard, and by putting an image in front of my front cover on the website and billboard in order to make it totally clear all my products link. If I was able to improve one thing, it might be the style of my website, because even though I have been careful to keep the colour palette, image style, text style and Lexis the same on this product, I may have made the layout too masculine because of the way I have used background colours. In other words, if I had time, I might change the design of the website to include more massive background image reflecting to coastal designs to make it better fit the style of my magazine and billboard. However, having said this, you can still clearly see that the products link together, and websites do differ slightly as they have to follow their own set of conventions as they are in a different medium. The audience feedback had a big impact on both the planning and the construction process on all of my products. The way in which I communicated with my audience is created a variety of surveys on SurveyMonkey, which allows me to create 10-question surveys which I can get valuable feedback from my audience. My primary audience research firstly showed me who would be in my target audience. Using SurveyMonkey to find out my target audience demographic, and learned that my magazine would need to appeal to people in the social grades of C2 to E and between the ages of 14 to 24. My primary target audience would be white British males and females of any sexual orientation. Furthermore, I learned my primary audience research that my audience would want to read my magazine for the following reasons that link to Bloomer and Cat's uses and gratification theory, information, entertainment and socialisation. I did not just conduct audience research at the outset of my project. I conducted regular audience research during my creative development, as I wanted to make sure my audience would find my media language choices appealing. I created surveys for all of my products, including my ancillary task, so I can get an understanding of what my target audience would be appealed to on my products. The common question I used on these surveys was to find out what colours and stereotypes that my target audience like, and therefore I know whether or not to incorporate these onto my products or not. Other questions I asked, such as was asking their hobbies and what they would find appealing on typical regional magazines, so that I could gain knowledge of what my audience will be. In the planning stages, I created numerous amount of surveys to gain information about my target audience. From this information, I was able to find out exactly who my target audience was and what their interest was. As my magazine genre was lifestyle, it means that it's versatile in terms of what content I include. So it was important that I asked questions regarding the content that they would like to see. It's important that I listen to my target audience, that I would be able to appeal to my target audience to make sales. I also asked questions referring the layout, the images that I used, and Lexis and typography, so that I could do my best to appeal to this target audience. I did ask my target audience again after the construction process for their feedback, but it was slightly different this time. Instead of asking them what they wanted to see, I had to get feedback over the products that I've created, so I could get improvements to appeal to them more, to make it more suitable to my target audience. I had some of the feedback that I received, was able to make some changes on my products so they were more conventional towards my target audience. In the first draft of my products, there were a high percentage of people who said they liked my products, but there were odd tweaks to be made just to make it suit them rather than an older target audience. I received a couple of slightly negative comments regarding the imagery that I used. The comments said that the imagery more focused on an older target audience and therefore did not jump out at them. In conclusion, I think another key reason why my A2 work looks much more professional than my AS print work is because I kept getting audience feedback and kept acting on it. In short, I learned to make a successful product, you must learn from You must listen from your audience and give them what they want in your product. As Gauntlet, Tapscott and Williams and Miller agree modern digital technology can allow anyone to become a producer and distributor of media text. I think I have proved that their theories are true this year through using technologies to plan and produce text that look professional once I distributed them over the web. I also think that I have learned a lot more about utilising technologies this year, as my work looks a lot more professional due to my improved skill set. Throughout the whole process, I have adapted my skills as a media student and progressed a lot from last year, even on simple programs like Blogger that I use for my planning. Last year, my blog and planning, along with my practical work, let me down slightly because I did not really understand the value of thorough planning. This year, I was desperate to improve on that last year. I used Blogger to present my planning and included text, images, videos and web links as vital resources that helped guide my practical work. Unlike last year, where my time management was not so good, this year I made sure I uploaded any planning the moment I completed it, and that I posted planning at least 3 times a week. This helped with my practical work as I could easily open my blog anywhere, anytime, and use it as a reference point when I was taking images or creating my products in post-production. I also used the internet for secondary research that I then added to my blog, and for SurveyMonkey audience research. As my response to the last question has already demonstrated, SurveyMonkey was a vital research tool as it let me create and distribute surveys across social media like Facebook and Twitter to my target audience. I did not really learn anything new with SurveyMonkey as I had used it last year. The difference this time was that I used it more frequently, and this definitely helped me get better results. Once I conducted my initial research, I next had to improve my digital photography skills. I did a lot of research into landscape photography before doing a number of practice shoots and main shoots. I used 3 Canon cameras, the 600D, the 5D Mark III and the 6D, in order to learn about different cameras and lenses. For action shots, I found the 600D was the easiest to use as it was a semi-pro camera that was light and easy to carry with a good autofocus I could use when needed. For the landscape shots, I preferred the 6D and the 5D Mark III as they could capture high quality images because of the quality of the camera, memory cards and lenses. I enjoyed learning how to get different effects by changing the shutter speed, adjusting the focus and changing the aperture. It took me a lot of shoots and shots to get the perfect images for my products, and I think this taught me that outdoor photography is hard to get right, as you need the perfect conditions for your shots and cannot get good results if the sun is too low or too high, or if the weather conditions are not perfect. Overall, I think my A2 images are significantly better than my AS images because I took more time to organise a larger number of shoots and spent a lot of time practicing and developing my skills. Also, I did not settle for any images that looked okay. If they were not perfect or my target audience did not like them, I shot new images. Once I finished the production stages of my work, I had to develop my post-production skills using Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator and Dreamweaver. I used Photoshop to edit my images and used tutorials to learn how to get the best results from filters and adjusting the brightness, tone and contrast of images. I had not taken the time to develop my skills in these areas last year, as I took all the time I had just to master the basics like cropping, erasing backgrounds, moving images and resizing the image. I am glad I did print again this year, as I now think my work looks professional, as I have learned to use Photoshop properly to get eye-catching results that were right for my genre. I used Photoshop and Illustrator to create some of my interesting text artwork, namely the magazine name coming out of the landscape on my billboard. This allowed me to learn a lot of new skills, as I did not attempt anything like this last year. I am glad I took the time to do this, as it looks more creative and edgy, which works for my target audience. I used InDesign to create my layouts and add text. I did use this program last year and did not have to learn too many new things. The main thing I had to do was learn how to download new fonts, as the ones available were not totally right for my genre or my target audience. Dreamweaver was totally new to me, and I was glad that we did a day course on it before spending a few lessons getting the hang of the basics, like how the coding worked and how to create basic layouts before adding text and images. With all the technology used, this is the one I would still like to learn more about and develop my skills on, because I just think that there is so much more to learn, and I really enjoyed making my website before learning how to get it live online. Like last year, I used the Canon 6D to film this evaluation and used iMovie to edit it before putting it on YouTube and embedding it on my blog. I had no issues with any of this last year, as I found discussing my work and creating the video straightforward and enjoyable. And this year has been no different, as I was confident and competent with all my aspects of creating and distributing my evaluation. In conclusion, I think I have developed my knowledge and technology skills across all aspects of planning, production, post-production and distribution, and my work looks like a real step up from my AS work. I now feel confident I can create a professional print work quickly and effectively, and that I could build another website again if I needed to. Overall, I am glad I made this progress, as I think I've learned a vast number of skills that will be useful throughout my university studies and my future career.